Hello friends, and welcome back to another Chickpaints simple painting tutorials. So this is one that has been suggested by one of my followers. It is rust and chipping. It is very easy to do. It's kind of similar to my last video I did with the scratches, but it's on vehicles. So imagine, you've got your tank, the edges get rubbed away, they might even get a bit rusty. There's an easy way to paint that on so you don't have to damage your models. There are also quite a lot of weathering products you can buy, Pigments. I'll show you some in a second, but this is very simple. For this you only need a sponge, like a normal sponge. I mean, this is from something I use for washing up. The idea is you get a palette, put your paint, a little bit of paint in the palette, you just very gently dip that in and then just go along like that. What I've done to make life easier, because when you use a large sponge it's a bit, it can go everywhere, so what I've done is I've cut them, or I've took them off with a pair of scissors and made them much smaller. So this is very simple, and if you are quite young, this is something you should really ask your parents to do, but you can just snip off a little bit, and there we have the tiny piece of sponge. It's got a good flat side there, so it will be going along like that. So there's two methods to do this. So if you want to have a rusty kind of appearance, then there's two paints. So you use Morn Fang brown and Abaddon black. So basically dark brown and the black, you can choose which ones you want to use. You don't have to use these specific ones. So you need to get yourself a palette and a paintbrush. You need to mix them together. So we'll give it a shake, and then I'll get some Morn Fang brown, pop it in my palette, and then give my brush a clean, and then we'll get some Abaddon black. I'll give that a shake as well, and we'll mix it in. You don't need a lot of this to go in. So what it does is it darkens it, but you don't need a lot because it can make it a little bit too dark. So imagine, we've all seen rust, so rust can be orange down to very dark brown. It's personal taste. I think I'm going to put a tiny bit more Abaddon black in the palette. This can also be mud. That's another method. Maybe you could use a lighter colour. These are all open to experimenting on. So this is just basically show you how to do it, and then you can change the colours, the paints. You can experiment as much as you want. So I'm going to get my sponge in my tweezers, and then on the model. So I'm going to concentrate just on the edges. So I will dip my sponge into my palette, just make sure there's not too much on there, and then when you put it on the model, you just very lightly and gently put it on like that. You can go nuts if you want to. There is room for that, and you just sponge it on like that, very gently. I always think the underside, these low parts, would be obviously the parts that would get worn. If that can, yep, you can see it. I just have to make sure that is visible. So you can do loads, you can do little. I'm going to do loads so you lovely viewers at home can see how it's done. See, and then you can go along the sides, or with ladder steps you can go along those. So you gently just put it on. There we go. So You can go nuts, you can go conservative, and obviously I'm just putting it on. You can be much more careful and gentle, and it will work the same. I have when I first started doing this technique, I was just putting it on and it didn't look good. So that leads me to the other method, which is just the bare metal. So I will flip it over to the other side. This is quite an old razorback that I painted, I don't know, about 3 years ago. So for this I've got some lead Belcher. So you will need a metallic silver. It doesn't have to be lead Belcher. It can be a darker metallic, a bit like Iron Warriors. It's a lot more darker, or you can just go brighter. It's up to you. That is personal taste. So I've got my pot. It's open. So I've got another clean, fresh piece of sponge. I'm going to very gently just take a little bit from the top, and I'm going to repeat what I did already, just along here. You can see how if you are not careful, it can go all over the place, but it's the same process. Okay, and you can go over. The thing you should try and avoid is going across like that, like a paintbrush. You have to just dab it, because I'll do it on here. So if you go across like that, it's essentially just acting like a big paintbrush, and you don't want that effect. So you just want it to look like it's been bashed up a little bit. And if you're a tank and you're driving and you're going through craters and bumpy landscape, I'm sure the paint would get worn off. This is a technique I like to use quite a lot when I do weather my vehicles. Some I weather, some I don't, but I quite like this technique. You just have to remember to dab it and not use it as a paintbrush, and you can build it up. So if you're not happy with it, you can build it up and build it up and build it up. So something like that. I think that's good. Where you place the sponge, I like to think of placements. We've already talked about the bottom. But I think these parts here would possibly get worn as well, and around the tracks. And then obviously on the front of the vehicle you can do the same technique on here. This one has the these little spiky things. If you don't want them on there, take it off, and you can do the same along the underneath here. Because I think the front would be the place where that would get the most, because that's the in real world physics, that's the part of the tank that has the strongest armor. So it would be facing forward, and it would be getting more shots. And you could imagine like bullets bouncing off this thing, or just falling apart and taking off the paint. It's called spooling when it does that. It's a very simple and very nice technique. So I'll do a comparison. So we've got kind of like a rust, and then the silver. I much prefer this. You can mix them up. So you could do the brown for the rust, and then put, I'm actually going to try it as well. I think I've still got a little bit. You can use your fingers for this, by the way. You don't have to use tweezers, but I just prefer to use tweezers. I think I just need a little bit more lead Belcher. Just a tiny bit more. You don't need a lot, to be honest. And then you can go just underneath to make it look as realistic as you want. Yeah, I think that is quite good. I would definitely do the rust effect first and then the metallic, so you get that effect. Yeah. Right, that brings me on to the slightly more complex method, which is pigments. So I've got some here. These are from quite a large tank I painted earlier in the year. These are from a company called AK Interactive. They do some fantastic weathering enamel paint. I would recommend, you need to give them a good shake. So this is light rust, and then this dark brown, which is for green vehicles, but it does work on pretty much any colour. So it's enamel paint. I am by habit a brush licker, so I tend to twirl my brush in my mouth to get a point. Don't with this, because these paints are non-toxic, but enamel paint, while I'm sure it's not going to really hurt you, it is yes, don't do it. Okay, I need to show you an example. So here is the model I painted this year. I went very heavy, so I used the same technique with the sponge and sponging it, but all the rivets I went around with the enamel paint, and with a very old paintbrush. That product will ruin brushes, so always use really old brushes. And then I just put a tiny little bit around the rivets and around here. I went quite heavy with this model because this is a 30k model, so it's from Warhammer 30k, so it's 10,000 years old. It's a relic within my Ultramarines army. You can do it around the turret ring as well, so a combination of the pigment and the sponge effect. I quite like it. It is a good method, a quick method as well. Just be, it's something. Be a bit careful when you put it on. You can build it up, put it on, let it dry. It builds up. You can put some more on, and yes, you have this finished method. I like this. It kind of also, while it acts as like a rust, it can also be dirt. It is a very similar brown to what I just used on the other vehicle. You can check them out, AK Interactive, so you'll have them on like Element Games, 4TK in Colchester, near where I live. They do sell the products, or you can go online. They are based in Spain, so the postage is a little bit more, but they are really worth it. There are other products and manufacturers out there. They're just the ones that I went with, and I was very impressed with the result. And it's easy. I will put some on here. I should take the gun off, and I will give it a very good shake, because the pigment separates from the fluid it's suspended in. So I'll just open it up. What I use is the lid, so you can see it's built up in the lid. So I get a tiny little bit on my brush, and trying to find a good spot to place it. There are some rivets here. I think they can be seen. You can just go around the rivets. There we go. It's that easy. Just be careful. Obviously, like I say, it's enamel paint. It doesn't smell pleasant, and believe me, it doesn't taste pleasant either. And yeah, you can go along the lines like that. You can take a little bit out of the lid, out of the pot. You don't need a lot of this, but again, it is something that you can put on quite heavily, and you can build it up, and then you get this dirt effect, and it's so easy. Brilliant products. They don't sponsor me, but I will tell you, they are just such awesome weathering products. I think that is everything that I can show you. That is so simple to do that. So both methods is easy. The sponge method will need some, I would recommend practicing it on old models, or just something that you can learn to be very careful with the sponge. Likewise with weathering pigments, experiment first. This model was not the first one I used it on, so I've had a little bit more experience, so I knew how to where to put it on and how much, and that is it for me. I have to just thank everybody who follows me here and on my other social media accounts. And please do like this video and share, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when I upload, and of course I need to thank my Patreon. So Plutonium OD and Tim's Hobby Corner, thank you so much for helping support this channel. And if you want to help support my channel and be part of this channel and help me to make content like this, there are some links in the description for Patreon, and then for my other platforms like Instagram, etc. And if you have any more suggestions for videos, then please put them in the comments. And patrons do get an exclusive Discord server, and that is another place where you can discuss directly with me any ideas that you have that you would like to see. I'm open to pretty much any idea that you might have. So thank you for watching the video, and I shall see you in the next one.